everyone. Really excited to be with you here today. I like to start these Lunch and Learns off in two ways. So first one, you have a sheet right in front of you. If you can just turn it over. I want you to draw just an emoji. I'm trying to gauge the type of audience we have. So just draw a quick emoji of how you're feeling going into this Lunch and Learn. The only caveat is it can't be a smiley face emoji. You have to think, you can pull up the keyboard if you need to, and you can look, it could be the dancing guy, it could be the one with the Z's if you're feeling a little bit sleepy. We've got the one with the weird face, like, ooh, I'm apprehensive about this.
Does it have to be a face emoji?
It does not have to be a face emoji. One time somebody did this and they did a plain emoji, which I was like, so are you high? What? Again, I'm trying to gauge the audience, but no, they were excited about a vacation. I was doing it on a Friday and they were leaving for vacation that day. So, because it does open up discussion, that I learned that person was going on vacation. So, just a quick, Teresa, do you have one already? Is it fire?
I can't even tell, yeah.
It's the fire. Yeah, that's a beautiful
it was
one.
Like a Christmas tree, honestly.
It was a little, we're getting into the holiday spirit, but fire. The fire emoji, Jocelyn has the eyes. Why?
It's like
Curious, okay, perfect. Cool. All right, well, this is mine. I did the cowboy one, like getting up to kind of, I don't know, get on the rodeo. So thanks, I think it's gonna be an exciting group. I'm excited that you're all here. I said I like to start these in two ways. So number one was the emoji. Number two is I always like to tell this story specifically with objection handling. So if you can, venture back with me. The year is 2014. I am promoted to manager for the very first time, people manager. And at Wedding Wire, where I was a people manager, they always had the managers lead new hire trainings. And so I was really excited about leading for the first time. I was going to lead my first new hire training, and I thought I was going to get one of the good ones. Maybe like history of the company, which at the time was led by our CEO, or maybe wedding industry 101. I worked for a company called Wedding Wire, so we had to know the wedding industry. So I thought, all right, I'm going to get one of the really good ones. And the sign-up sheet comes around, and there is only one training left for new hires. Can you guess what it is? It is objection handling training. There is only one left, which means that of all the topics, the managers before me chose everything else except objection handling. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, so that's not that bad, right? Just to put this into perspective for you, people would rather lead trainings on the philosophy to our pricing structure, very dry, or why it was important to wear deodorant in an office environment, which is very embarrassing and true. We did have that along with the employee handbook, before they wanted to lead a training on objection handling. And it kind of makes sense because oftentimes objections are looked at as the end of a conversation. And they make you, sometimes as a salesperson, really uncomfortable in figuring out, how do I take this seeming end to my conversation and turn it into something that's gonna make us go forward. It's a hard skill to do yourself, let alone to teach other people how to do it. And so I was young and naive, and I had no idea that that might be the case. So I just enthusiastically put my name next to objection handling, and I set out to make it the very best training that my new hires were ever gonna go on. But I quickly realized that that shouldn't be the goal of my objection handling training. In fact, the goal should really be not to help people handle objections or to overcome objections. My goal was going to become help my reps humanize themselves so that they can make other people feel comfortable with them as a salesperson. Because at the end of the day, and what I hope you leave with today, is that most objections you get are not objections at all. In fact, they're reactions to somebody feeling uncomfortable in some way. They're uncomfortable with something, and so they're only reacting. They're maybe rejecting the interruption to their day, or they're rejecting being sold. They're not actually rejecting your company or your product or your service. They don't know enough about it yet. And so if you can humanize yourself and you can get them to say, oh, wait a second, this person's not trying to sell me. This person's human, Alyssa's human. Then we can start to slow people down and actually get them to hear what we're saying. So if you leave with nothing else today, I hope you leave with this one thing, and that is genuine dialogue makes you human, and being human being is how you handle someone's reaction. I'll say it again because there's a box at the bottom that says takeaway from this session. So this might be your takeaway from the session. This is the biggest thing that I hope you get from our time together, which is genuine dialogue makes you human. And being a human being is how you handle someone's reaction to getting interrupted or feeling pressure to sell. There will hopefully be other takeaways too, but there's one. All right, we're 5 minutes in. I haven't even told you my name, but I've told you I've told you the biggest takeaway. So I might as well get credit for the biggest takeaway. I'm Alyssa Kropp. I'm originally from the East Coast. Moved here in 2021 for my husband's job. I love Omaha, which is a sentence I never in a million years thought I would say. I've been in sales my entire career, so 15 plus years in sales. I started selling commercials on Comedy Central and Spike TV. Spike TV is now Paramount, but started selling commercials there, and I've worked in SaaS sales in all different types of industries. I've come up against so many objections. And in 2022, I was leading a sales team out of a New York company that was a unicorn company out of New York. And I was leading a sales team there. I was 11 weeks into a 12-week maternity leave, and I thought my boss was just calling me to catch up. I was supposed to come back the next Wednesday. And instead, I, along with the entire segment of the business, the SMB segment of the business, was being let go in a restructure. If you're wondering, is that legal on maternity leave? It is, because that was my first thought too. But it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me because it propelled me to start my own sales consulting and leadership coaching company, the Caslow Group, where we help early stage companies and founders transition from a founder-led sale to a more mature, strategic, repeatable sales motion. And so happy to, after the fact, talk about sales in any capacity. It's really where my passion lies. That's a little bit of why I'm here, and Pam asked a little bit of why you're here, so I won't do that, but I'll just reiterate some of the things that people said, which was a lot of learning. People wanted to learn. I hope that's what you're able to take away from our time. If there's anything else though that I can cover, or there's anything else that you're not sure about, raise your hand. I hope you got from the emoji thing. I'm pretty low-key, laid back. Jump in at any point. I'd love to hear your questions and answer them as I can. So this is what I love about objections and about sales in general. Sales is actually pretty predictable. Maybe not in forecasting, maybe not in whether or not people are going to buy your product, but the really cool thing about sales is that it's generally pretty predictable. And I say that because if I were to tell you that I'm going to cold call you, let me ask Alejandra. I'm going to cold call you, and I'm going to say, Alejandra, hey, this is Alyssa calling from the Caslow Group. We do sales consulting. What are you going to say? Okay, sure. Anything else?
How can I help you?
Okay, how can I help you? True, absolutely. Has anybody ever cold called before? Okay, Josh, what might be something else that they say?
What concept?
So I say, hey Josh, it's Alyssa calling from the Caslow Group. We do sales consulting. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good, thank you. You guys are all Midwesterners, so you're very, very nice. Pam, what's a likely reaction? I call you in the middle of the day. I say, hey, this is Alyssa calling from the Caslow Group. We do sales consulting. How are you?
And instinctively, it very well could be, I'm sorry, I'm not interested.
There you go, right? Usually, it's gonna go you're either gonna get somebody nice, which if you're calling into Nebraska, you probably are. I told you I'm from the East Coast, so that's not my experience at all. But like Pam said, you're probably gonna get somebody who says, oh, I'm not interested. Oh, call me again later, right? Or like Michaela, sorry. Like Michaela said, they just hang up, which is kind of worst case scenario because that really does end the conversation. I can give you some tips on how to deal with that too, but at least for now, we're gonna be working with the people who give us some sort of objection. And that's the cool thing is you can prepare for a ton of the objections you're gonna get. It's so predictable that you can actually start to write a script for yourself on what you're going to say back if you get a not interested, or you get a I'm not the right person, or now's not the right time. And I'm going to help you with that. It is really, really rare that you call somebody and they say, Alyssa, you are not going to believe this. I was just in the back and I was sitting there wondering how I could make my point of sale system more efficient and a better experience for my customers. You are an absolute answered prayer. I am so happy you called right now. Please tell me exactly what your product and service does, because I know I need it and I want to buy it. Like, if that's happened to you, come up here. You're supposed to be teaching this lunch and learn, not me. So if that has happened, which it hasn't, great. Let's prepare for the more likely scenario, which is that they say, nah, not interested. I'm not the right person. Call me again in 6 months, something like that. I love this topic. I think overcoming objections is so important because it's the universal thing no matter what we do. Whether you're doing car oil changes, Paul, was that it? Oil changes, okay. Or Jocelyn, you just started a company? Congratulations on consulting, but sales isn't your forte. And Alejandra she does business operations internally, right? And so regardless of what you do at your companies, you're going to run up against objections. And I have listened to a ton of podcasts, a ton of audiobooks. I've read physical books, if you can believe it, on this topic. And a lot of it is very theory-based. It's a lot of like, oh, you should set up a process. Sure. It's not a lot of action of what to do to actually overcome these objections. So that's what I've done, is I've taken everything that I've read on this topic and I've put it into actionable steps for you. So before we do that, I want to hear from all of you. What are objections you've gotten in the past? Pam gave us one, a not interested, right? So. Michaela. Because now I don't know if it's Michaela or Mackenzie.
Not in the budget? Or
not in the budget. No budget. Yep. Paul?
I'm too busy to even consider the option.
Too busy. Perfect. I'm just trying to think. I'm going to put it under this one. Okay. Okay, what else? Josh?
I don't know if this can help.
I don't know if this could help me. I don't know if I have a need. Let's do no need. Okay. I'm so sorry. Sean? Brian. I don't know where I got Sean from. Brian.
I already have some basis.
Already have something. Yep. Okay.
Not right now.
Not right now. Let me just look what I put not right now under. Okay, not right now.
not the decision maker?
Not the decision maker. Perfect. William?
Similar, no budget, but price.
Price, yep. That comes down a little bit farther in the sales funnel. We're talking today a lot of like top of funnel, which means when you're trying to get a meeting with somebody or you're trying to book a call. But William, that's absolutely comes up as an objection. And the framework I'm gonna give you can still come up later down. When I mean farther down the sales funnel, I mean when you start to get into price and they're a little bit farther along in your sales process. Yep. Okay, a pretty good list. Any others? Teresa, did you have one? I thought you were.
I yelled mine out.
Perfect. Anybody else? No. Okay. I put these into 3 columns because there's actually 3 ways that I kind of want you to think about these, which are dismissive, situational, and existing objections. These are dismissive. These are when I called Pam and I said, hey, it's Alyssa from Castle Group. We do sales consulting. And she said, oh, I'm not interested. You don't even know what you're not interested into, Pam. You don't even know what you're not interested in. These are dismissive. They just want to get you off the phone. These are situational. These are, I have no budget, or I'm not the decision maker. And then we have existing, which is, I already have something in place. And it's important to realize that all of these are a reaction to you doing something. Dismissive, and I'll write this down here, just so you remember. Dismissive, situational. I always forget it. Okay. All of these are a reaction. They're not actually an objection at all. And so if you can learn how to overcome the reaction instead of overcoming the objection, immediately you'll be more successful than trying to overcome an objection. People make the big mistake here of solving the objection. So they hear something like no budget and they ask, oh, okay, no problem. When does the budget open up? Or they hear, I'm not the decision maker, and they say, oh, okay, no problem. Who does make the decision at the organization? Or they say, you know what, I'm so busy, I don't have the time. Just call me again tomorrow. Great, what time tomorrow? Do you think the likelihood of them picking up your call tomorrow is any more likely than today? The answer is no. It is not any more likely that they're going to pick up tomorrow. Because what you were just doing is you were trying to logically come back to something they were saying. But there's research in psychology that says when people are approached with something that they're is unexpected for them, they trigger a system 1 reaction in their mind, which is a fight or flight reaction, which means that people are going to try to run away and get out of the situation as fast as they possibly can. They're not at all thinking logically. It is all emotional. It is all a gut reaction. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to ratchet down the sales pressure a little bit and get people from system 1, fight or flight, this is threatening to me, I have to get off this call as soon as possible, to a system 2, much slower reaction that allows your brain to think, okay, wait a second, if I'm thinking logically and rationally about this, maybe Alyssa does have something she can help me with. Maybe I'm not as threatened by the sales call as I thought I was going to be. So the goal here is to move them from system 1 to system 2, and how we're going to do that is by the title of this presentation, which is humanizing the objection instead of just trying to handle it. So let's talk about dismissive objections. Like I said, they're not at all rejecting your product, your service, or even your company. In dismissive objections, they're rejecting the interruption to their day. They don't like being interrupted, and so they're saying, oh, no thanks, absolutely not. I want to just get you off the phone as quickly as I possibly can. Not at all a reaction or a rejection to something that you're selling. It's just get me off of this as soon as possible. Sorry, I'm standing in it. So here, you have to appeal to the emotional part of their brain in order to say, okay, let me slow down. Let me actually think logically about this. In dismissive objections, you're going to try to maybe overcome with logic, and instead the best way to lean into a dismissive objection is to agree with them and say, oh, okay, your version of what you're telling me is exactly true. I'm going to agree with that, and then I'm going to take it from there. Ratchets down the sales pressure. If dismissive objections were an rejection to the interruption, situational objections are a rejection to the pressure of being sold on something. Who thinks that they've reacted in a situational way before? Okay, perfect. I guarantee everybody's hand should be up, because have you ever walked into a store? Any store? No, no one has. I'm dealing with a bunch of people who just have never walked into a store, any store before. Okay, let's say you walk into a boutique. A sales associate comes up to you. What does he or she say?
Can I help you?
Can I help you? What do you say in response?
I'm just looking.
I'm just looking. No thanks, I'm just looking. Even if you're there for something specific, even if it's your first time in the store, you need a birthday present for your dad and you have no idea what to get him or what the store offers, you're not gonna say it. Why? Because you
Then they
don't,
don't leave you alone.
because then they don't leave you alone and the pressure of the sale becomes too much. I don't want to be sold. And so because I don't want to be sold, I'm going to tell you, no thanks, Teresa, I'm fine. Even if I am desperately looking for help, I want to know what your store has to offer in way of birthday gifts for my dad. I'm going to say, no, I don't, because I don't want the pressure of the sale.
It's the Midwestern thing of not wanting to bother somebody.
You don't want to bother somebody. Get rid of that in sales. You're never bothering anybody. No, In sales, you are there because you have something that could truly benefit them. That's going to be the mentality we take. But I agree with that Midwestern mentality of like, oh, I don't want to bother somebody. So I guarantee all of us have at least given some situational objection in the past. At the very least, if you've ever walked into a store and said, no, I'm okay. So here, the thought of buying feels like so much pressure to them that we want to remove the thought and the pressure of the sale. And don't worry, I'm going to teach you how to do that here in just a sec. And finally, we have existing objections. If dismissive objections are a rejection to the interruption, if situational objections are a rejection to the pressure of the sale, dismissive objections are also a rejection to the pressure of the sale. And so with dismissive existing objections, we just want to kind of get a trap for about 3 or 4 of our competitors. Just one thing that we do better. So I think I told you I sold Comedy Central and Spike TV, I've sold advocacy software, I've sold IT solutions, I've sold a lot of different things out there. When I was selling advocacy software, it was a company called Phone to Action. The title could have been improved, but and our biggest competitor was Quorum. We always ran up against people who were using Quorum. And I would always cold call people and they would say, oh no, we're good, we're already using Quorum, an existing objection. They don't want me to sell them. My first reaction would always be, oh, of course, Quorum, great company. Honestly, it doesn't make a ton of sense oftentimes to move off of Quorum. Let me just ask you though really quickly, how are you currently texting your advocacy alerts? Why? Because Quorum couldn't text. And I knew that. I knew Quorum didn't have texting, but I knew texting was really important in a lot of advocacy strategies. So one simple question, let me just ask you real quick before I let you go. How are you texting your advocates to let them know about advocacy campaigns? Because then it got them talking. They said, I started off by saying, honestly, Quorum, great company. A lot of times it doesn't make a ton of sense to move off of Quorum. Oh, okay. Okay. She's not trying to sell me something. She knows Quorum's really good. She knows I'm happy with Quorum. Okay, take a deep breath. Now I'm thinking a little bit more slowly, a little bit more logically, and I can now respond to the question of how do I do texting to my advocates with an honest answer. Because if I give you an honest answer, you already told me you're not trying to sell me anything. So I'm going to be a little bit more forthcoming. Jocelyn, yeah.
I've been trying to figure out how to word this, but I feel like there's one maybe missing. I'm not sure what bucket falls into,
Ooh.
but it's sort of the idea of like, I don't understand the need for this, or like, I didn't know I needed this at all. And so because of that lack of knowledge, I don't have time, I'm overwhelmed or whatever. Like it falls into other buckets like
Can't
after that.
conceptualize the
Yeah.
product.
Yeah, they like don't get it.
Needed in the first place.
I've, in my experience, a lot of people will just say that they don't need it. If they don't understand it if I called you and said I did sales consulting and you're like, I've never heard of sales consulting, I have no clue what Alyssa does,
Yeah.
I'll probably just say, oh, we don't need that.
Yeah.
No. And then you handle it by saying, yeah, that makes sense. You've got a great team there at the Caslow Group or whatever company you are, right? That makes sense. And then we can handle it by just asking more questions, because what you'll see is actually of these 3, dismissive, situational, and existing, 2 of them, situational and existing, give you rope to work with. They almost open the door to bring the person into the conversation with you and to ask more questions and to continue the conversation. Michaela. And in my mind, it's like, it's Michaela or it's Mackenzie, and I can't. Michaela said earlier, the one that is like truly the only one that really shuts off the conversation, which is they slam the phone down. Or you walk into a store because you're trying to, I know Mary, you sell a lot of restaurants, so you probably walk into the restaurant and maybe the person's in the back. If you can't even speak to that person, it gets shut down a lot. But Mary, you might want to use gatekeepers, which you and I can talk about later as well. Okay, here's how you're going to handle any objection. You're going to agree, incentivize them to elaborate, remove the pressure of the sale. I've ran through this so many times, but apparently not. Okay, agreeing is just that. And this is, William, you and I were talking about this earlier of how sales is almost like dating, right? If you come in too hot, if they say no budget and all of a sudden you say, oh, okay, no problem, when does the budget open up? How desperate do you look? Goodness gracious, that's like, oh, you don't want to go on a date with me? Okay, when do you want to go on a date? How does next Tuesday work? No? Okay, we don't want to be desperate people. We want to agree that whatever they're saying is truth. You're going to do that in two ways. Laugh it off and then agree with what they're saying. Here's why. Laughing shows you're comfortable. Even if it's just a, oh, shoot, should have thought you already had something in place. I'm not asking you to have a full-blown like knee-slapping laugh. I think that might be a little bit awkward. But just a slight little chuckle that says, ah, shoot, Tom, I should have assumed you had something in place. Okay. Bumps us down to here. Two things are going to happen. Oh, okay. Well, this is not trying to sell me. And there's an actual human being on the other side of the phone. It's not just a robot who's dialing down a bunch of numbers. There's actually somebody on the other line. And so here you're going to have lines like, totally get it. It's hard enough to keep budget, let alone get budget for something new. Or should have, and I actually have some lines for you, but that's on me. Should have figured you had a way to handle X, Y, and Z. Or, shoot, I thought the decision might come down to you or you. Again, it ratchets down the sales pressure. If you can leave with no other tactic today, do this. Train yourself to every time you get an objection, respond with a laugh and an agree. I guarantee it will change the way you handle any objection. It will make people more open to talking to you and to continuing the conversation every single time. Do this one thing. We're actually going to role play later. I know you're all probably super jazzed about that. But we're only doing this part. We're not doing any other things that I'm teaching you. So truly, honestly, the rest of it, you don't even have to listen. But that's a joke. You can listen if you want. This is the one, though, to listen to implement, because it'll remove the pressure of the sale. Okay, incentivize to elaborate. We just want them to elaborate a little bit and share some of the challenges that they might be facing. What this does is it says, with agreeing says remove the pressure of the sale, okay, this person is human. Incentivizing to elaborate says, oh, okay, Alyssa's hearing what I'm saying. She's really listening to me. And the way you do this is you appeal to what the prospect wants. So, what are things the prospect wants? The number one thing is to get off the phone with you. They don't want you to be on the phone. So that might look like, hey, Paul, real quick before I let you go. Okay. She's gonna let me go. I just have to answer this one question and then I am off of this call, thank God. I am almost out of here. I am almost in the clear. Real quick, before I let you go, is it that you don't have budget now or you're unlikely to get budget ever for something like this? Now they know, okay, if I just answer this one question, I'm gonna get what I want, which is to get off the dang call.
They want to answer.
They want to, what?
Answer the question.
They want to answer the question. Again, if you're calling in the Midwest where people are really, really nice, yeah.
Talk about themselves.
They want to talk about themselves. People always want to talk about themselves. They want to get off the call, and they likely want you to never call them again. That's, if we're just being honest with ourselves, they don't want you to interrupt their day ever again. So that might look like, hey, Mary, just so I make sure no one on my team gives you a call, when it's not appropriate for you. Let me know, when do you usually reevaluate the budget? Is that done annually, or is that kind of done quarterly? How do you do that? Because now, oh, she's asking me so that she makes sure nobody calls me again at a time that's not appropriate for me. So I'm incentivized to give her an answer to that, to make sure she puts in the notes, hey, don't call Mary, because she only budgets in May. So you've bought yourself some time between now and May, right? We incentivize them to give them what they want. Another way this might play out is they say, hey, just send me an email. Definitely, absolutely. I'm happy to send you an email, just so I make sure it is not utterly and completely, against what you're looking for. What's one or two things I should include in that email? What you'll probably find is they have no idea. Because why? They were only objecting to the pressure of being sold. Actually, just send me an email is a dismissive one. So they were objecting to the interruption. They don't know what you do. So if you ask them for what should be in the email, they're gonna have no clue. And it opens up the door for conversation, which is really the only goal that we have here, is to open up the door for conversation. Here's what you say. Look, I'd hate for anybody on my team to call you again when it isn't appropriate. Or I'm curious before I let you go. Or happy to send you the email that you requested. You're agreeing with what they want. And then you're asking a question to get them to elaborate and continue a conversation. Again, it brings them from system one. I have to get off this call, fight or flight, absolutely get me out of here, to thinking a little bit more slowly, rationally, and logically. Finally, we're gonna sell the test drive by removing all the pressure of the sale. I did that earlier when I was talking about Quorum. Honestly, Quorum's a great product. And it rarely makes sense to move off of Quorum, so it's unlikely that you're gonna do that. Oh, she's not trying to sell me. My next question of doing text advocacy is really, I'm just curious, how do you do text advocacy? I'm much more likely now to share with you how I do text advocacy because I've already said Quorum's a great product. It's pretty unlikely that people move off. In fact, I don't know if this would even make sense for you. But how are you doing text advocacy? Would you like to just see? That way if text becomes a part of your business objectives for 2025, you can raise your hand and say, hey, I already know a product. You can look like the hero. Now all of a sudden people are like, all right, I'll see what you have to offer. Since I know you're not selling me after all, I'll see what you have to offer. Other ways that you might do this is, I know you already spent your budget, William. Knowing that you have no budget now, would it make sense for you to just take a look at the product? That way it's in the back of your pocket. You know what we have to offer. You know competitors to you're already using XYZ product. You know competitors. That way if budget does open up, you at least know what the options are. Because then once they're in the test drive, they start thinking, oh, these seats are nice. Oh, this rides really smoothly. Oh, this is way better than my existing product. The existing product that I hate, but I would never tell you that I hate, because if I told you that I hate it, then you try to sell me. And that puts me into system one of I have to get out of this as soon as possible. So that is the removing the pressure of the sale. I promised you we'd role play. So we're going to right now. You're just gonna pair up. It's about 10 minutes if that. Josh, do we have time for 10 minutes of a role play?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Just a quick one. You'll see about halfway down your paper, you have the role play. You're just gonna write down an objection that you get. You can take one from here, any of them. And then you're gonna write how you would agree, how you would incentivize them to elaborate, and how you'd remove the pressure of the sale. Then you're going to talk with your partner, and you're only going to do that first one 4 times. You're gonna say, Teresa's going to say to, did I get your name?
I'm Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Teresa's gonna say to Emily, I have no budget. And all Emily's gonna do is agree. Makes total sense. Or, shoot, I should have guessed. Right, that's it. You're just going to get comfortable with somebody throwing a roadblock at you, and instead of it ending all hopes for a sale, you're only going to get comfortable with being like, duh, I knew this was coming. This is the most predictable thing that could have happened in sales, is that they told me they weren't interested. And I am so comfortable handling this because I've prepared for this. So that's what you're gonna do We'll put 10 minutes on the clock. And then if anybody had somebody who was stellar at agreeing with the objection, raise your hand, because we want to make that person feel uncomfortable. That's the goal. All right, I'll let you do it just for a quick 10 minutes. I know, Teresa and Emily were over here saying we just have to laugh and smile at each other, which is pretty much, again, I think that if you have a second takeaway for today, the second one is to just laugh and smile and agree with the person. Great. Well, I appreciate all of you doing that. Hopefully you've gotten a little bit more comfortable with when you get an objection, just brushing it off, agreeing with them, and moving it into a way for them to elaborate. I have some takeaways from today, but before I throw them up on the screen, does anybody have anything that they're going to take away? It cannot be that genuine dialogue makes you more human, and being a human being is how you overcome objections. That can't be your takeaway, because I already gave you that one at the beginning. Any other takeaways?
I liked just how with the role play, it kind of puts you in an empathetic role. It takes the stress out of the smile and dial.
Yeah,
So this was
yeah.
sort of a refreshing, like, how can I bond with them versus like, how can I get them to stay on the phone?
Oh, I like that. Yeah, because I think that's so often our mentality. It's like, how do I just get them to stay on the phone?
Yeah.
When if you could just say like,
I mean, already bracing yourself for that no, or yeah, this was just I liked the forced role playing.
Thank you. And it could really go either way. That's why I like to get a temperature gauge of how people are at the beginning. It often tells me how receptive they're going to be to role playing. Paul.
I just like the idea that you're creating a connection versus creating a client. You're trying to.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry.
Should you trademark that?
No. You're just trying to, connect with them versus trying to sell them, and then it takes the pressure away from you, like trying to make the sale. So
Yeah.
if your idea and your goal is to connect with them, then it makes it that much easier to. If they don't do anything with you, then they just go, all right, well, I had a good conversation with them either way.
Right, exactly. What you're leaving them with was a genuine interaction, was a good experience for the other side of the phone. That's a great one. You might find that quote on some of my social media going forward. I'll just tag it Paul.
We're just doing so.
Takeaways, yeah. If you have any takeaways, Josh, I'd love to hear
From
them.
like all the cold calls that I've done, I don't like cold calling, but
Yep.
it's a part of the business, right?
Yeah, of
So,
course.
Being my personality is very I love how you're talking about the humanization of sales and trying to connect with them personally and care about what they're looking for and try to get that out of them first, like get that emotion out of them, like what are the challenges they're trying to struggle with, for example, elevator, our members tend to struggle with the home life balance, or work life balance, and an e-commerce business would struggle with inventory taking over a bedroom that they want to use for, let's say, a future kid or an office space or something else, they want to use their room for. So trying to dig those kind of challenges out of somebody is something I personally have taken away from just my experience with sales and everything.
Yep.
Is once you can get that out of them, then you can kind of work around those challenges and provide solutions that kind of get them to build trust with you on that call or on those interactions that you have. That's really one big thing that I've learned, but also just that works with my personality. I think I really care about the person versus just trying to make a sale.
I love that, Josh, because you said that you don't like making cold calls. In fact, I don't know anyone who does like making cold calls. Well, of course, William. If there was going to be anyone, it would have been you.
I think just try to pretend it's a friend. You're calling a friend.
Pretend it's a friend, yeah. And I wonder, do you hate making cold calls because you too feel the pressure of maybe the sale or the pressure of you're interrupting them, or?
Yeah, there's obviously the pressure of you you're calling them for a reason.
Yep.
But how can you get your mindset switched to kind of avoid that way of feeling when you're calling somebody? Just kind of make it feel natural as best as possible.
I love that.
But have a genuine care, you're trying to help them out.
Yes.
Don't feel I think a lot of people just maybe in a corporate setting are very focused on just trying to hit their quota for the quarter. Let's actually try and get to a point where you can you're trying to genuinely help this person, and the trust is the biggest thing, right?
Yep.
building that trust.
And telling them, hey, I'm human. Hey, is I think how you start to build that trust. Jocelyn.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
In your experience, have you received or seen any trends in objections or on the sales side in any of these objections that you've seen, are they demographic agnostic? Does that make sense? Like, do you experience them in the same way depending on who you're talking to, and then same thing from the sales side?
I think so. If I'm understanding your question correctly, do you change the way you respond to a lot of these
Or like
based on?
objections received differently depending on gender?
I don't know how objections are received. I don't know if I could speak to that, but I do think a pretty solid way to do it is to realize they're probably not objecting to you, to your product, to your service, to your sale. I think females might be a little bit more not apathetic, empathetic perhaps, of like, oh, okay, I'm not interested, but I'll let you go on or something, or maybe in the Midwest they're a little bit kinder. So that's a good question. I don't have an answer to it though. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, please.
I was going to kind of just go on this. I think there's a fine line between trying to be the person you think they want you to be or you want them to be, right? And just being yourself. And I think being yourself at the end of the day, but caring for the customer, putting yourself in their shoes, decision has already been made. Whether a contract was signed before, a lease was signed before, and now there's just more optionality out there with today's environment. I don't think you ever change up who you want to be in their eyes. I think you always just keep it standard to who you are.
Yeah,
You're not going to sell to everybody, but
I like that.
people respect that.
Yeah, I like that. Teresa.
One of my big takeaways is like give them what they want. Like get them off the phone and tell them when you're following up or not following up. To your point, I don't want to cold call you. I don't want to be on here. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like this is my job. And so like I don't want to call you back next week.
Yeah.
So being on the same team on that and like getting to that point where it's like, yeah, so I can send you this email and then I know when to follow up with you again.
Yep.
But then my other, like kind of when you were speaking, my biggest thing when it comes to sales is I'm not here to get the sale, I'm here to help you make a decision. Like yes or no, we're both happy because you've made a decision, and so often it's just people being in that indecision space that we want to get them out of.
Yeah.
To bank off what she said too, like if you can, even if it's a no at the first interaction, and you're genuinely trying to help them make a decision, I feel like that person will feel more comfortable if they need your service or your product later on to come to you first.
Yep.
Because you feel that genuine interaction with them, and it's the relationship building, the personalization that also is thinking of.
Yep.
That's like.
I think, Paul, you had touched on that earlier of like leaving them with just a genuine, very positive interaction, so that if things change in the future, they think, oh, okay, that person, I should look into them. That was a good interaction. Yeah, great. These are some of mine, but I like all of your takeaways a lot more than this. Great thing about sales is just how predictable it is, and you can overcome objections in about 3 ways. Realizing that most of them are not actual objections, they're reactions. Genuine dialogue makes you human. Human beings, being human is how you handle reactions. And then anytime you get a reaction or objection, laugh it off, brush it off. It'll ratchet down the sales pressure, make you a little bit more human, remove the pressure of the sale. It does a ton of things. So if you could do nothing else when you get an objection, learn how to agree with it. Okay. Just real quick, I said at the beginning, I do sales consulting. I think great sales teams are led by great leaders. So if you'd like to improve your leadership, I host a monthly meetup the first Thursday of every month at the LinkedIn offices from 8:30 to 10, where we bring in outside speakers and talk on numerous leadership topics, ranging from managing conflict. This Thursday is Kevin Hensel from the Better Culture team talking on how to welcome a team in a remote environment. So if you have a lot of remote people and you're wondering how to make them feel included, especially during onboarding, that might be a great one for you. How to get promoted, there's all different types of things. So even if you're not new to leadership or you're not looking to improve your leadership skills, if you have people on your team who are interested, I would love to personally invite you to this event. This is the QR code that'll take you there. And then if you want to geek out on all things sales, I could talk sales for the rest of the day. So I'll be hanging around. If you have any questions on what I presented or just want to pick my brain on anything, that business card that is stapled, that you're here for a reason at the top of the thing, the top of the worksheet there, that's my business card. You can take that. I always like to just tell people and end on this, the two things of why I have that as my business card. One, in sales, you're truly here for a reason. We spoke about this a lot. You're not here to make the sale. You're here to figure out what's going on in their world, what they might be running up against, challenges they might be facing, and how we can genuinely help. In sales, always look for a reason that they might need your services rather than just trying to push a product. It's probably the number one thing I see sales teams do wrong when they're trying to move from founder-led to standing up a sales team. But number two, I'm a leadership coach as well, and regardless whether I'm talking to CEOs, first-time managers, moms, people who just recently got laid off, doesn't matter. You are in your position for a reason. All of your personal, professional experience has brought you to this point. It is so easy to look around and to think, I am going to be found out. It is the number one topic in coaching that comes up is feelings of fraud. Feelings like somebody is going to figure out that I'm not supposed to be here, I'm not qualified for this position, whatever it might be. So if you want to just keep that on your desk to remember, there is a reason that you're in the position you're in, you are qualified for it. All of your experience, personal, professional, has brought you to this point. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm so honored that you had me and for your participation.